All right. Hello, fellow songwriters. Oh, I'm completely off center now. Hello, fellow songwriters, and welcome. I'll just lean like this. It's fine. There's nothing awkward about it. And welcome to the 18th episode of the How Songs Are Made podcast, where we talk to notable artists about their songwriting process. I am your host, Trey Xavier, and today we're going to be talking to my buddy Jason Richardson about how he writes songs. Today's episode is sponsored by the amazing DistroKid, the best way to get your music on the internet, and their awesome Hyperfollow feature. Hyperfollow is a completely free and awesomely powerful promotional tool for anyone who uses DistroKid. It's the one-stop...
I use it.
Jason uses it. It's the one-stop shop for all the links to streaming services and stores for your DistroKid release. So this is the link that you give people when they ask where to hear your band. You know what I mean? Your aunt at Thanksgiving is like, "Oh, you still doing your little music thing? Where can I listen to your band?" This is the link that you give her to blow her mind. And it automatically updates with your new release as soon as you drop it. And you can start marketing your release before it's actually live and collect pre-saves on Spotify with email addresses and all of that. It's super useful, and you can use the same link all the time. You don't have to get a new link or anything. Anyway, super useful and amazing. Check the link in the description for 7% off your first year of DistroKid. So now, you may know him from a number of different bands that he's played with, such as Born of Osiris, Chelsea Grin, All Shall Perish, and the band that I most commonly say when I'm mean to say All Shall Perish, which is All That Remains, he's just come off tour with them, a band that I have liked for a very, very, very long time. So that's pretty sick. But more likely as a solo artist who's releasing his long-awaited second solo album with Luke Holland, simply titled 2, this July. Please welcome to the podcast my guest, Jason Richardson.
Ooh, fancy.
What's up?
Hi.
How are you doing, dude?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Coming off a NAMM weekend right after tour. I mean, you were only there for a little bit, but...
Yeah, I only went Saturday just because I was asked to. I don't know. NAMM's fun your first time, but it's like the coolest thing ever the very first time you go. But then, at least for me personally, like every time after that, it's just kind of like, oh, this is a lot. It's very overwhelming.
It's always overwhelming. I kind of like. I mean, I love it, but I know I'm weird. Everybody else goes because they have to. They go for as long as they have to and no more, for the most part. Especially people who work at booths fucking hate it.
Oh, yeah. They're over it. I know some of the Ernie Ball guys have been to like over 30 of them, and I'm just like I am 30.
Yeah.
Like,
when you went to your first one, I was a baby. Mm-hmm. Yeah, bonkers. Like I can't imagine having gone that many times. That's a lot. I don't know if in 30 of them, this was like my 8th one or whatever. I don't know if in that many of them I'll be just absolutely miserable. But as of now, it's like, for me, it's more like I get to hang out and see people that I haven't seen in a very long time.
Yep. To get to catch up with quite a lot of people, that's always fun and sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a lot.
Yes.
It's so much. Mm-hmm. Like I'm
very overstimulated.
You know, just from yelling too much, I'm sipping some nice throat coat.
Yep.
But we are here.
Namthrax is what that's called.
Namthrax. You don't.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I didn't get it. I'm a social person, and I wanted to talk to lots of.
And I got it. My bad.
No, it's all good. I'm gonna zoom in on you a smidge to make it look better for the folks at home. All right, so we're here to talk about your new solo album, which is coming out in July. Which is July. The exact date is July
15th.
15th. Yep. So a little over a month. A month and 10 days. Mm-hmm. You're going to be able to pick it up and listen to the whole thing, which I have been lucky to do.
Don't leak it, please.
I promise that I will not. I don't even know that I would know how to leak a thing. I don't know how to use Pirate Bay, so...
Yeah, me either.
Yeah,
I don't want malware or Trojans on my computer, so
no.
I don't even, it's dumb.
Yeah, I mean... I'm patient enough to wait for the most. I mean, I don't have to wait for this one, but in general, I'm patient enough to wait. Mm-hmm. But so it's called 2.
Very creative.
Dos. the new album Dos. And it's awesome. You've released some wild music videos for it, for the songs off of it already.
Yes.
The first of all, the single entitled Pumbaa, I giggled so hard when I saw the name of it. Can you tell us a little bit about just to kick it off? Tell us how that came about.
Well, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. It's nothing too complicated. It's literally just because I was listening to Hans Zimmer's Lion King soundtrack a ton a couple years ago, and I wanted to figure out a way to incorporate that into a metal song somehow, just make it 8-string on top of that, just to be even more extra about it. So I just use that as a challenge to try and figure out a way to do it. So Pumbaa, that's where that came from. Yeah, and then as an ear training thing, just to see if I could figure it out later. I figured out the battle theme from Pokemon, the old Game Boy version, later, and I figured it out like note for note, just as like an ear training test in MIDI, and then I just moved all the notes around on the MIDI grid, and that's how I came up with the part later in the song. I just literally figured out the Pokemon one note by note, and then I just moved everything around to where it was different enough, and then
holy shit,
then just figured that out. Yeah, so that's where that name came from Pumbaa and Pikachu, because they both have those vibes in there.
All right, if you draw, please draw this mashup of Pumbaa and Pikachu together. I want to see that. You haven't already had somebody do that, have you?
I mean, there's album artwork single artwork for like the upload on DistroKid.
Oh.
But I don't know, the guy I hired to do it, he's more of just like a Photoshop, like really creative, like in that realm, not like a illustrator or anything like that. So it works, but it's essentially like a almost same shape as like Pikachu's tail, and then like a weird glitched out photo of Pumbaa in the background, because you have to change everything by 15% for parody, so you don't get sued. And Nintendo likes to sue people a lot, so we had to be a little creative with that, like just change the shape essentially a little bit and make it so it's different enough to where we can't get in trouble, and it's just like a fan of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can. It's one of those things you can get away with a lot, but also if you don't, it could be be a big problem.
Yes, exactly.
I just turned you up a little bit. They said it was you were a bit quiet in the chat. So there's really only one main question for the podcast, and then everything else is pretty much a follow-up question, and that's, what is your typical songwriting process, and was it any different for this album?
Well, this one took forever, as you guys can tell. First one came out in 2016, so it's been a minute. I think Tendinitis came out in 2018, just the one single. We were planning on trying to get an album out, relatively after that, but then it just took, I don't know, I was just uninspired, and I don't like forcing stuff. Forcing things sounds forced, as I'm sure you know. Or if you're just like, oh, I just have to write something and get it out, it sounds like you did that for the most part. Songwriting process is, I don't know, it always varies. I don't have like a one thing. When people ask that, I usually ask for okay, well, what song is making you ask that question? And then I can explain how I did that one in particular. More recently, a lot of the things that I've written are centered around more of the, it usually starts with the programming, like the orchestration or something like that, and then a guitar part will get written inspired by that. That's what happened with Pumbaa, for example, for that song. I wrote that kalimba part on everything, and then I kind of just looked at that and the notes that were bouncing around between the two different kalimba parts that I programmed, and then figured out a way to turn that into a guitar riff from that MIDI that I had programmed. It usually doesn't start with guitar anymore. I'm trying to think of one thing on the album that maybe did. There was definitely a handful of them for sure, but nothing right off the top of my head it comes to mind where it was definitely a guitar part first. Maybe one of the songs that isn't released yet. I think Polyrhythmic Pug. That's actually it started with the Gent collab from Jared. That song. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because it came out so cool, and even Jared was like, "Yo, you should turn this into a full song." Like when I sent him that clip, and then it ended up doing that. It's actually a shorter one. I think it's like less than 3 minutes. That one just kind of like starts out the gate and then just goes. It doesn't have like a huge like orchestral build up on that one.
I felt like you missed the opportunity to call it Pugly Rhythmic, but but it was a pretty funny name.
Yeah. The reason it's called that too is this is another, I guess, good songwriting thing. So my old dog, dude, before he passed away, he would drink water in 7/8.
Oh my god.
Like, I'm literally not even kidding. Like it would, the timing of the way he would drink water was like this. It was like slurp, 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 drink, slurp, 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 drink, slurp, 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 drink, slurp, slurp, slurp.
Oh my
like
god.
every single time, no matter what. That's like just how he drank water. And then every now and then he'd add in a measure of 5/8 or 9/8. Like there would only be 2 slurps, or he would do 4 slurps and then swallow. So I had a video of him, or my girlfriend had a video of him drinking the water. So I took the audio from that, put it in the song. I barely had to edit it at all to get it like locked in time, and then just wrote a part to that pattern. So that's that whole middle section of that song.
That's amazing.
Yeah, if you go back and listen to it, you can hear him in there. Like actually, you can hear him drinking, like it's like a water like slurping sound, and then you can hear his tags jingling a little bit. I just have that overlaid, that entire middle section that's in there.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty crazy.
I was talking about being very, very open to inspiration from wherever it's going to come, and that's a fantastic example. Anytime I'm like sitting in traffic, like at a stoplight, and you hear the like a motorcycle kind of like making the motorcycle sounds, I don't know, like the idling noise, it always sounds like a gallopy guitar to me, and I'm always like, oh man, I wonder if this is like, I don't know, where Iron Maiden was like, oh, I could make that a guitar riff, that kind of thing. And you took that to an extreme, but that's pretty perfect. I mean, it was. Do you think that maybe he just spent so much time listening to your music, like doing weird time signature stuff, and then internalized it?
Probably not. But
doggo.
he's just a dog, and that's just how he drank water.
That's very sweet. So, obviously, that's not something you can have just like dropped on you all the time. So,
nope.
But what are some other things that inspired different parts on the album? So now we've got Lion King, Pikachu, and Pug.
I guess another one, the song that's already out, Ishimura. I was playing the video game, that Ghost of Tsushima game a lot, the samurai video game.
Oh yeah.
And that made me want to try and just use a bunch of like, Asian type inspired instruments for the intro of that one. If you go back and listen to it, it's got like erhus, taikos, a couple of, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but a lot of things in that realm. Like there's I think a woodwind or a woodwind type instrument called a duduk or something like that. It's like some weird flute thing, and I just tried to pull from like everything that I could similar to that to use for like that intro build up. And then the main riff is in here, Joshi Minor, which is also another Asian pentatonic type scale. And yeah, I just kind of tried to stay like all in that realm for that one. That was inspired by just playing that samurai game a lot, and that just popped in my head. And then all those Tina Guo libraries have like all the erhus and stuff like that in there that you can use. So it just ended up coming out real sick in that way. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that one, I guess.
So once you've kind of got an idea, like the
Kodos. Thanks,
Koto.
Poo Ninja. That's also in there. There are Kodos in there.
Yeah, I use a lot of those kind of sounds here and there. It's like one of those things where you're like, man, I have no idea what this instrument looks like, but it sounds cool. You
Exactly.
You could go look up a picture of it, but it's almost like if you know, then you're gonna be thinking of it not as a like a sample library, and then it's gonna get complicated.
I've learned a lot about instruments and stuff like that and just terminology of like bizarre orchestral techniques and stuff from the libraries.
Yeah,
because if I don't know what it is, I have Google, so I just type it in and look it up, and then I know.
Yeah, you see it, and then you click on it to try it out, and you like play it a little bit, and you're like, okay, that sounds cool. What are they doing to get that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen an erhu, right?
Yes.
They're bizarre.
Yeah.
They have like one string,
string,
and the bow is like wrapped. It's like there's like the bow, and then the horsehair part is like wrapped around it, and they have to like pull it out, and like I don't know. It's really weird.
There's a dude who plays on the pier in Santa Monica, I think, who every once in a while, who's amazing at it. Like, if you can play it, it's a beautiful instrument. It's just like has this like introspective, like I don't know if it's just because they use it in movies at those kinds of moments when it's just this like sad, like beautiful moment, but that's what it evokes to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Another one that's really crazy that it looks like a torture instrument. I don't know if y'all have you ever seen a water phone?
I don't know. Oh, like wait, not the one that's like glasses full of water, or the one that are
Nope. It literally looks like a medieval torture instrument.
No,
it's like used in horror movies and stuff like that. It's a very high screeching kind of sound.
Oh, yeah. I can't picture it in my mind, but I've seen like a video of somebody like making those horror noises with it.
Yeah, you can. It's usually bowed like with a violin or whatever, just type of bow. But it literally looks like you could just like throw it at someone, or like it would be in a movie and just you like killing someone with it. It literally looks like a torture device.
Jesus.
And you just pour water in the middle of it, and it changes the way it sounds.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I used it on the outro track, that goodbye track. On that one, that's like all just atonal, like terrifying things. It's in there.
And you used a sample library for that, or you got a physical?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, next album will be all real. I've kind of put my foot down and told myself that. Like, I'll obviously write all of it, like with the sample libraries and stuff like that. But I think that's like the only next step up is just to literally redo all of it as real as possible. By then, hopefully, I'll have like a bigger budget to like do stuff, because it's not cheap at all. But living out here in LA, I've made connections. I know people that are doing movie stuff and scores like that. So it's doable. It's just a matter of
a lot of bands and producers use like Eastern European orchestras because they're cheap and super good.
Yeah, Czech Republic in particular
Republic,
is usually where people go to.
Yeah, it's still not cheap, but it's.
I want to be there though, so that's why I'm like I want to be there for it, and that's that flight and hotel and all that stuff is I might end up just costing the same inevitably if I were to do something like that, and just instead of just staying right here where I live.
I'd be very, very excited to hear that. I think that would be super cool. I mean,
I might cry.
I'll cry. We'll cry together. I've always loved the orchestration parts in your music, and it's really interesting to hear that you will often start with that. I think it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. Guitar, especially if you're really good at it, it can actually limit you in a certain sense because you can do basically anything, but you also have always the things that you come back to a lot, and if you get away from that, you can generate more inspiration sometimes.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's say you've got an idea, like a part that you think is going to be sort of the centerpiece of a song, like the polyrhythmic pug bit or whatever. What's usually the next step? How do you start structuring out the song? Or you can give an example from any one of these songs, something that maybe is a kind of a typical process for you.
Structure wise, I try to never go like. I mean, people always like think it's like weird and crazy over the top, and nothing ever repeats ever, which is obviously, if you listen to the songs, it's not true. I pretty much just always keep pop structure like in the back of my head, always, no matter what. And a lot of times as well, like it sounds like patterns aren't repeating or like similar to each other, but they usually always are. Like if something is like really like a faster pattern where it's like dig it, like literally like in Pumbaa, for example, it has that faster breakdown, and then when it happens again, the next part after it is literally the same exact pattern, just like cut in half, if that makes sense. So instead of being a grouping of 6, like dig it, it's just dun 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 dun, something like that. And that kind of like helps like keep continuity, but it's a slightly different part. It's like a variation, essentially. It's like or like motif or like reminiscent of in that kind of aspect. So I mean, obviously, I'm the one that wrote it, so I know all of those things. Just listening to it for firsthand, you might not notice that, but if you go back and listen to it, it's like you're like, oh, that's why it makes sense with this part, like in context with everything going on. Things like that, like even like that heavier breakdown in Pumbaa. Like when it happens the first time, it's like way more kind of like straightforward, but then at the very end of the song, like I think I moved like one note over like a 16th note or something like that, so it's just like slightly different or something. But yeah, the computer is definitely your friend. A lot of like old heads would probably disagree with that, but I mean, I don't know. The technology's there. You might as well use it to your advantage. It's like the same with like Guitar Pro and stuff like that. Like I try to stay away from it as much as possible, but if I do have some crazy shred idea in my head, I kind of want to hear it first before I attempt to record it and then waste hours of my time on some idea that's not even good or I didn't even like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. That's like that shit adds up over time. So, but yeah, like from the first album, the string skipping part and the song Retrograde with Spencer from Periphery. That's how I came up with that. I had the idea in my head and I wanted to hear it before I try and figure out how to play this like insanely difficult string skipping passage. So I did that, put it in Guitar Pro. It sounded sick. I was like, well, now I have to learn how to play it.
Kind of shot yourself in the foot to a degree.
Yeah, a little bit. Same with Tendinitis. Same exact thing. Like that was inspired from an arpeggiator. Like a whole intro was made before a single guitar part was put in, that entire orchestral part. So that there was an arpeggiator in there, and I just was curious what it would sound like as a guitar riff. So I figured out how to play it. Recorded it at 50% speed, and then just 200%ed it in the pre-pro, and then put some drums to it, and was like, oh shit, now I have to learn how to play this full speed. It's definitely a slippery slope doing it that way, but you'll come up with crazier stuff and like push yourself harder doing that. Just to have to make sure you can actually play it, and it's not just a Guitar Pro thing.
Yeah, that's the worst. Because it's hard to gauge whether or not something is going to be worth it until you actually have it in a format where you can kind of hear it and get a little bit of perspective on it, and by the time you've actually learned it, it could be, I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, because it's, for the average person, it's probably practice, but if you're trying to get something done, it could be a rabbit hole that is too long and dark and with nothing at the end.
Yeah.
But so then once you're thinking in terms of motif and development. It sounds like you're taking ideas and varying, and I can hear this in your tracks, and you're going through and you're taking the same idea and changing it up just enough to give it some variation, but without abandoning the original idea.
Yep. And
I can see how like the average listener might be like, whoa, everything's completely different. It's just a big, long, through composed thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think of it as you're listening as this one or two simple ideas that are being varied up a lot, I think that makes it a lot more exciting to listen to, because it's almost like an Easter egg hunt to a degree. You're like, oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again.
Yeah, if anyone goes back and listens to Ishimura again, that just popped in my head. I don't know, like the verse parts where it's like not the Hirajoshi like Asian riff. It's like literally the same melody the entire time in some capacity on that whole part. Like it just literally does that. It does that the entire time over top of like those verse sections. Even like the crazy tapping part that's in there, it's happening I think on like a French horn or something like that in the background, and then the breakdown part after that, like that same melody is happening in the programming like the entire time. So it's just doing that melody like throughout more than like 50% of the song in some capacity.
So it sounds like I said this in the video that I made where I tried to write a song like yours.
Yeah, that was entertaining, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really fun to make, and I'm pretty stoked on how it came out. But I have long thought of you more like a composer than a songwriter, which is like kind of a vague delineation. But at the same time, you can hear that in the way that your songs are structured and built out with this idea and all the like the motivic development and all this stuff. It sounds always to me like you're thinking of it in a much larger, broader sense than just like, here's a cool, catchy song, listen to me shred. It's it sounds like you put a lot of yourself into it and a lot of thought and a lot of real like I can hear you agonizing over these parts sometimes in the song, like, oh, this needs to be more important. I don't know. Like, it could be wrong, but it sounds to me like you put a lot into it. And of course it took a long time to finish the album. Like,
it could have been done quicker, like, realistically, but I don't know, like I said, like, right when we hopped on, it's I don't like forcing anything. And sometimes that's counterintuitive. Like, sometimes deadlines are good. Like, I've realized that with, like, putting together, like, the music videos and stuff like that for the new album. Like, we're working on another one right now to have drop on a release day. And that one's probably, honestly, as the more we're working on it and coordinating it, it's more ambitious than the Pumbaa one. It won't take as long to film because it'll only be at one location, but, like, just the concept behind it and all the moving pieces that kind of need to, like, fall in place by film date of June 29th. It's a lot. It'll be really crazy once it's going to be like, yeah, I'll just wait and see. But yeah, it's a lot.
That's pretty awesome. Ambition is very important in being creative at all because, like, you know, it's all been done. So if you're not gonna try really hard to do something new and exciting that you're stoked on, sometimes it almost feels not worth it. So let's see. Once you're fleshing it out in this way, like, and you're, like you said, you're keeping kind of a pop song structure in the back of your mind while you're working on it. How do you put a button on it? How do you kind of, like, polish it off? Like, how do you know when it's done? How do you know when you're like, okay, I'm satisfied now ish?
When I can listen to it from start to finish without stopping it to fix something. Sometimes it takes a long time to get to that point, but that's usually my goal for myself, where if I can listen to the song in pre-pro and I can listen to it from the start all the way to the end and then not hit pause to go and fix, like, a swell volume or something dumb like that, or like a weird guitar edit or like a click or a pop or anything like that. It takes a long time to get to that point, but that's usually my rule of thumb. I'd be like, all right, maybe it's done now. And then, taking time away from it also helps, because that's another reason why, like, rushing stuff and things like that sucks, because it's like, if you have to have this thing done by, like, this date, it has to be finished, like, hard finish. It's like, well, this song could have been better and we'll never know. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I've always noticed for me, when I take, like, a time away from something I've been working on, like, tirelessly for forever, when you take a little bit of a break from it, it's like refreshing your palate almost in a way. Like, you can think about it differently. You're not stuck in that one headspace of just, like, grinding on it endlessly. And you might hear it differently and then come up with something new. That actually, I'm trying to think of a song where that definitely happened, because it 100% happened, where I had to take Sparrow. That song, it's not out, that's not released yet. There was, like, 3 different versions of that probably before it got finished. And I had it, like, done, and then just, like, I took a time away from the more I listened to it. I was like, some of these parts kind of suck. I was like, this is, like, really boring. It could be way cooler. And then I just scrapped all those parts and redid them, and now it came out, like, 10 times sicker. Like, 10 times sicker than it was before.
It's really hard to be that honest with yourself about something, especially knowing what it would take to, to redo all that stuff. If you go, like, if you think something sucks, you're either going to be willing to put in the time and effort to redo it, or you're not. And, it's got to be right. Yeah. But, like, goddamn, you're just like, fuck, this kind of sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
That's another week.
Well,
of
another
life.
rule I have for myself is, if it doesn't give me chills at some point, like, the arms, the hairs, like, raise up on your arm, if it doesn't do that for me, it's probably not good enough. So, like, everything on there has done that for me. Like every part and everything has done that for me at one point or another. Like, I mean, I've heard it like a million times now. It's been done for almost a year. There's just been like a lot of business stuff that's happened that's prevented it from coming out. But now we're finally like, at the end of it, and like it's released, it's coming out now. So, but it has literally been finished, I think, since last July, the album. Just music business is horrific.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yep.
What
are they saying?
Yeah. How's the chat?
Does anyone have any dying questions they're trying to ask?
Let's see.
I don't think so. Maybe not yet.
I think I told them to hold them for the end, but
okay.
But let's
Well, that's a good one. Actually, Ishimura had a part where
wait, what's the question?
Luke influence on the track.
Okay.
Yeah. That whole breakdown section after the crazy tapping part in Ishimura was Luke was like, "Here's a drum beat," and then I just wrote to it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's why it's all like really skippy and like all over the place, and like some of the guitar parts don't necessarily make sense, but they like do. Like I wouldn't have been able to just come up with that like off the top of my head. But yeah, he came over and programmed out a drum beat, and then I just wrote the guitar parts to it, and then just like essentially follow along with the chord progression, and then just try to come up with like weird, creative, random little things that would make sense to the pattern. But he said he heard it completely differently in his head from what I made up for it. So, I don't know.
But it's still the chords from the other parts of the song.
Yep.
And then you just kind of fancified them along with this drum beat that he gave you.
Yeah, it follows like the chord progression identically to how it happens in the part prior, and then there's that French horn part carrying that same melody over top of the entire thing, kind of like tying it together. Actually, like one of my friends who does all my studio updates and stuff out there in Bethesda, even like he's not like crazy, he's not like really that musical, if that makes sense. Like not as like a dig or anything. He's like a photo video guy. He doesn't play any instruments or anything like that. But even him, like he listens to like some like dumb rap shit and stuff like that primarily. But he pointed out like during the crazy tapping part, it's doing that same French horn thing, and then it does it again over that crazy breakdown part that happens right next. And even he was like, "Oh, that's super cool how it does that melody from earlier in the song like that entire time." I was like, "Oh, nice. You noticed that."
It's really nice when people pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
It feels like you're communicating effectively through music. That's awesome. Especially if it's somebody who's not a musician. I think it's a thing that a lot of people like. They'll subconsciously maybe pick up on it and it makes it better. But if they consciously go, oh, like in a movie or something, when they see a character from before and putting things together and all that kind of thing, that's cool.
Yeah, usually if someone's not a musician, they don't know why things sound bad because they can't pinpoint like what is going wrong because they don't know enough about the subject. It just sounds strange to them and they don't understand why. Essentially.
Yeah.
Like with some live bands and stuff like that, like if you get like a bunch of different member changes or something like that, and then you're just like, oh, like why do these guys sound so much better now? You know what I mean? Than like they did before or something like that. That's just like they can't pinpoint why it's better, but it is. Yeah.
And as musicians, like those are things that we notice, and then if it's sometimes for me at least, it's a thing where like if I notice it consciously, it can improve the experience because then I like know why, and it's I don't know, makes it cooler in some intellectual sense. But at the same time, when you're writing it, you're not expecting anyone who's listening it to pick up on that consciously, right? Like I don't know. Maybe I guess I should phrase that as a question. Do you ever consider that people will pick on that consciously, like your friend did?
I mean, I hope they do. That it's always cool when they do. But yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah. I mean, that's always the goal. You want people to just attach to it and like associate with it and want to listen to it again. That's the other thing.
So, the question about Luke made me think about collaboration in general. So, like you said, there was that one part that he contributed to. Does he contribute other things aside from writing drum parts and all of that, or is there anyone else involved from outside the organization that has any say in how the songs are written or not? Influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to a degree for sure. The way the things happen with Luke is typically I'll program out like I do. I mean, I play drums as well, so I definitely, and plus like helping Luke transcribe some stuff initially. I mean, he does it all himself now, and I've showed him how to use the program and stuff like that. And but like just seeing all of that written out helps me get like a little bit like in his head a little bit when I'm pre-proing everything. So I program everything out myself, and every now and then if he has a crazy idea, he'll come over and just like try it out in the MIDI and like put what he's thinking in there so we can hear it before we like go and record it in the studio and things like that. But he redoes all the drum parts, like while keeping like the main idea that I put down in the song in there, and then he just makes it his own and like changes up all the fills and like makes things crazier. And while we're in there in the studio, if he has an idea, like we'll try it out and then see if it works or not. And usually it does. I don't think there's ever been one like maybe every now and then, but not too often. Well, I'll be like, I don't know. It's usually always just like a home run for sure. On this album, there honestly wasn't a ton of outside influence when it comes to writing. It was pretty much just it was just mostly me, and then every now and then Luke will pop in and do it like that drum part, for example. And then there's another song on there, Byronius, that all started again with a drum beat that he had for forever. And that was like essentially the start of that song. That's how that one was started. He was like, here's this drum beat, and then I started writing to it. That was actually another one, structure-wise, for whatever reason, was really hard to nail down. And we completely finished it when we got out to the studio to record, and Taylor helped. Taylor Larson helped iron out just like the continuity of the structure and just like making sure it actually made sense as a song, with like repeating motifs and things like that, and like some catchy stuff in there, where it wasn't just like a bunch of like patterns with like orchestra over top of it, because that's like kind of what it was before. It was my least favorite one by far, but now it's definitely not. Now it's sick. Like I'm really happy with how it ended up coming out. But that was that was the only one that Taylor really helped like write in a way, other than just like making everything sound like massive and really sick and just like absolutely crushing the mix.
Do you tend to structure the song out and then layer a lot of stuff on top, or will you start with a part, like layer a lot of the orchestral elements and electronics and stuff like that before kind of moving on? Or do you usually have like a basic layout for the song before you start?
It's a little bit of both. Yeah. Sometimes I do have to put my foot down. Like I notice I'm getting distracted and it's not like benefiting the song. I do have to put my foot down and be like, all right, hone back in on what you're like actually trying to achieve with this, instead of just doom scrolling sound libraries, trying to find the right sound. But I mean, there is like a double-edged sword with that, I guess, in a way, because like when you're doing that, you're learning more about where things are in those libraries, or just about instruments in general. Because I don't have like some crazy big template made or anything like that. I'll usually just like since I have the slave machine set up now, the two machine setup, pretty much any idea that pops into my head, I just know where it is with all my libraries now, so I can just like open it up real quick, and then I don't have to worry about my computer getting mad at me, because I can just open up instruments endlessly. Like I think on a Pumbaa, that one had like almost 100 different instruments, like all VSTs, just running fine at the same time, which is like crazy.
We've talked a little bit about your setup, and I think that was the first time I ever heard of someone using a whole separate second computer to run all the VSTs. And But apparently that's a very common practice. And now I'm like,
It's common practice for dudes doing like film scores and things like that. It's not a very typical setup. I had to do a lot of research and like pay the company that made my my slave machine to come over and like do an initial like networking setup so I could see exactly what they're doing, because I just couldn't figure it out on my own. But like once I watched the guy do it, I was like, oh, that's really easy.
Yeah,
you just have to know how to do it. Like he literally just showed me like 2 things. I was like, really? I'm like, oh, okay. But now I know how to do it. Like I could add like more computers in if I wanted to. Now,
damn.
Yeah, some dudes like Hans Zimmer and like Tom Holkenborg and Ben Wallfish, like literally anyone doing movies, Danny Elfman, like any of them, like they have multiple machines because they pay someone to like maintenance all of it, and then they can just load up an absolutely giant template with like 2,000 instruments in it and have any idea that's in their head ready to go right there. They don't have to waste seconds at a time loading a VST or something like that. And then if they have like 10 things open because their computer's not strong enough, they have to freeze all of them or print everything to audio just so you can keep moving with the song. Like, it's such a waste of time. And it got to that point with me where I just like couldn't tolerate it anymore, and I had to do something to get it figured out.
It's a workflow or flow state, very important. And there's a certain amount of struggle that I find that helps with the creative process, because you kind of have to, it makes you care about it a little bit more until it's prohibitive. Oh, damn. We got a super chat from Guy. All I can read is Guy on the screen. My screen's not big enough. Thank you, Guy. Says we're amazing.
Yeah, he's Guy Con. He's awesome. He was when I was doing Twitch a lot. I am going to get back on soon, I think. He was always throwing out tons of gifted subs. He's the shit.
Cool.
Hi, Guy Con.
Hi, Guy Con. Welcome. I got right off track. So,
sorry.
No. It's not your fault. I'm easily distracted.
It's Guy Con's fault.
Guy Con.
Yeah.
Goddamn Guy Con. So, what would you say was the most difficult song to get out and to get done from when you started it? And do you feel like it was worth putting in the, I mean, that's a dumb question. What was the most difficult song and why?
Well, I mean, it was that Byronius one we were just talking about.
Okay.
Mostly just because of structure. Like, it's just, I don't know. It was just hard to nail down for some reason. That was another one where it had a couple different like sections and like parts just in there, just like trying to make everything flow together, that I ended up taking out. And earlier in the song, we like extended one part and then put like a melody lead over top of it. So that way, it just like had more of that like repeating kind of thing. Because it does. That's another one that has like an orchestral build up and like, or actually, no, that one's not even, that one's more just like weird electronic stuff kind of in there as a build up for the intro. And that piano part, or like that sparkly like synth kind of part that's in there, we ended up just turning that into like Taylor was like, why don't you just like make like a sick lead out of that and then just extend that part so it has more of like just like a chorus kind of vibe to it, I think, in a way. I don't know, that was definitely by far, even though when you guys end up hearing that, when you wouldn't have ever thought that, because it's not like it's crazy, but it's not like one of the most insane ones on the album. So, but just structure-wise, for whatever reason, like I literally just gave up, and then I knew we'd be able to finish it once we got to the studio, so I just stopped trying altogether to finish that one. And then once we got there, I was just like, Taylor, help, please.
Well, but you had to decide that it was worth working on. So it must have had a bunch of stuff in there that you really liked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's all the parts that were in there I definitely liked a lot, but it was just tying them together in a way that wasn't like just like riff soup or like just like a bunch of just parts. Mm-hmm. And it just took forever to get to that point with that one. I think Luke and I first started working on that one like around the same time Tendinitis came out. So it just like, I don't know, just sat on it, would try working on it, it wouldn't work, come back to it, it just wouldn't work again. And then I literally just got to a point where it was like, well, we know we will be able to make it work. So I was like, I'm just going to stop trying And then, because just another thing where you just get inside your head about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone like Taylor, for example, can come in and just be like, all right, well, we need to do this for this one. And he did that on a couple of the songs on the first album, too. It's both Tonga and Fragments from the first album. Taylor helped hone in, like, structure-wise and all of that.
Sometimes it's hard to get perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know something is good, but you're looking at it this close.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
do you ever consider whether or not something is going to pop off in a live setting? Like, how much are you thinking about playing these songs live when you're writing them?
Not often.
That's a completely fine answer.
Yeah, because well, I mean, obviously there are a couple parts that are dumb heavy, which like that obviously is like with like a live aspect in mind, where I know people are probably gonna like lose their shit and like start punching each other, which is like those parts are intended for that, obviously, but no, usually not, or everything wouldn't be as hard as it is if I was worried about like having to play it live. I just kind of like, yeah, this is sick, let's just put it in there, and then I just make sure I have something to put my foot up on.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I had to have Ernie Ball make me shorter straps, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally had like they're supposed to. We've talked about having it be like released as like my strap,
Mm-hmm.
but it's literally just the polylock one, like a few inches shorter, so I don't have to tie it in a knot.
Yeah, that's the worst. What I have to do, I don't know, maybe I have one sitting close by. I have to get the ones that are like the dad, like acoustic style straps where it like goes through.
It's got all the different buttons.
Well, the little like slots.
Yes.
And normally you're supposed to wrap it around once, but I figured out that if you wrap it like the long way around more than once, it significantly shortens it. But yeah, same shit. Like,
yep.
Yeah,
I would have it as short as it could go, and it still needed to be just like a little bit higher for live, just like a little bit. So before I had them make me the shorter ones, I would literally have to tie it in a knot and then set it to where it needed to be. It just looked kind of like jank. But now that I have the shorter ones, it's like it's sick. It's perfect. They can go. I could have it like John Lennon status, like up to my neck, like a necklace if I wanted to. I don't need it quite that high, but
the necklace. That's what you could call it if they release it.
I was thinking the shred strap, but man, I don't know. Maybe that's a little cheesy.
It's memorable.
Yeah.
Cheesy but memorable, like
Yes.
power metal.
Yeah, cheesy's good in some ways.
I like it. I think I have a much too high tolerance for cheese. Sometimes when I'll talk about like on the stream or whatever, or listen to some song, people are like, why do you this isn't too cheesy for you? I'm like, I don't know. You don't think it's fun? Some people hate fun, man.
Yeah,
metal
they do.
fans. A lot of metal fans hate fun.
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, I really don't get it. They'd rather write a novel bashing something than just click off
Yeah,
and go do something they like.
yeah. Like, come the fuck on.
I just posted one of those the other day because the dude was so triggered. I was like, this is fucking hysterical. Like, why are you so mad, bro? Like, just go listen to something you like.
I think if it's somebody's uses it as their entire identity, they're not probably not really a musician, maybe because they just have taken it on as their entire their fandom as their entire identity. I mean, this I'm gonna get death threats for this one, but black metal fans,
Yeah.
every single time they make it their entire identity, you take one tiny little swipe at them and it's death threats.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really pathetic.
I
But
just watched that Lords of Chaos movie recently.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that? It's about like the origins of mayhem.
I didn't watch the movie, but I read the book a long time ago.
It was
It's a good one.
It was very interesting, to say the least.
They got Kieran Culkin to play one of the main characters.
Yeah, Macaulay,
right?
I think.
Was it?
I think it. Yeah, I know it was some Culkin.
They're nearly identical.
Yeah, they're I think it might have been Macaulay. Does someone in the chat know? I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Just were you saying that the elitist mentality that they have? The one scene in that movie literally walks up to a dude who's like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan," and it ends up being the future member that kills him. Spoiler alert, sorry. But he just walks up to him and because they're black metal, he points at a patch on his vest. He's just like, scorpions, and then just walks away.
Holy shit.
If anyone doesn't know, Scorpions is technically a Christian like metal band from back in the 80s, but like so that's why like the black metal he walks up, just points at the patch, and then is just walks away.
Holy fuck. Imagine being an elitist about
that. Like that extreme. And some dude is like, "Oh, dude, I love your music," and you're just like, Christian
poser.
Bye. Like that's. Oh,
this is another thing people probably get mad about, but I always found battle vests to be the tackiest shit ever, and it's like dudes checking out the bands on there like that is just like dogs sniffing each other's ass. You know what I mean? They're like,
that's a great way.
Like,
to put
I
it.
like that band, that band, that band. Yeah. Oh my god, you like this band?
Yeah, I don't understand it. It's like everyone just get along.
And they're so tacky looking. Like it's the anti-fashion for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, since we're getting a little far afield, let's actually talk about. Let's change gears a little bit and talk about your new shit outside of the songs. You've got 2 new models with Ernie Ball, right? Or
yeah, we just dropped 2 new colors,
2 new finishes, 6 and 7 string for both.
Yes. Man,
that white one got me feeling things.
Yes.
I mean, the other one is definitely more beautiful, but I have an affinity for white guitars, and I was like, no, my wallet.
Yeah, they're gonna be gone relatively
they'll
soon.
Be gone so fast. I gotta make a decision.
It's a slow burn, but they're selling. Last time I checked, there's only 25 of each, and I think there's 18 sixes left and 13 7 strings left. It tells you on the site, which kind of cool because it like entices you to like, I guess they're like, oh shit, the number's going down.
I'm gonna be starting a GoFundMe. Yeah. You guys, please. And they look amazing. You were playing them on the road with All That Remains. I saw pictures.
Yes, kind of like teasing a little bit before they came out.
That's a good move, man. You just have them, and then you don't talk about them for a while, and people are like, no, tell me, what is it? Tell me, can I get one, please?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember like forever ago when I already had my first Petrucci model. I think it was his G3 tour. I was still in high school, and that was the very first BFR like ever. And he had like this quilt top and a different colored neck, and there was only the one model out at the time, and I was like, what is that?
Probably looking at pictures in a magazine, in a physical magazine, like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got a new Ampsim plugin through Mixwave.
Yes,
and I've gotten to try that also. I mean, it's out. People can just buy it now.
Yep, and you can try it for
to me.
2 weeks for free as well, if you're skeptical. Which you shouldn't be.
It's great because then you don't even need people to make a demo for it. Everybody can demo it themselves for 2 whole weeks. That's a long ass time.
Yep.
I know there are some dudes with a cracked FL Studio out there who are going to wait until they've tracked everything on their album. They're going to download it and then just use it for 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, and then they would be very sad that they can't use it anymore, and then they're going to have to buy it.
Yeah. But they'll print all the tracks and then they'll have it on that. Anyway,
yeah.
I always thought that was a funny thing. I see people in forums be like, dude, all you got to do is just wait and like get it all dialed in, and then you have it for anyway. It's like how much is it? Like $100
right now? Yeah, intro pricing.
Intro pricing.
Yeah.
So get it now for real. Okay, 2 weeks you can try it for free. Come on.
Yeah.
How was the development process for that? What did you like? What
we actually pretty much we were using beta versions of it for the album.
Wow.
Yeah. So the album tone is primarily that plugin.
No shit.
We did a little bit more of a convoluted thing, obviously because the plugin wasn't finished yet. But there was no real cabinets at all. All of it was IRs that we took at the studio, at Mixwave Studios, which are now in the plugin. All of those IRs were captured at Mixwave and then used on the album. I think we stacked like 4 of them. That's another thing too that's sick about the plugin. You can stack 4 different IRs between 20 different microphones and 3 different speakers, and you can combine them all together and blend them and stuff like that. And that's how we ended up getting that sound. And the lo-fi too is really creative. It's not an EQ, it's a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Called I think it's called a copper phone or something like that. It's meant to emulate like really old, like vintage kind of sound, like vinyl player. Like if you think like 1930s or something like that, like that's what it kind of reminds me of. But the microphone just sounds like that, and that's what we use for lo-fi instead of an EQ or something like that. But
like the BioShock soundtrack.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's what that microphone sounds like. But there's even like even at mixing, like we sampled like 10,000, like took IRs of like $10,000 microphones and stuff like some crazy Sony and like stuffs with tubes in it and like all of that kind of shit. And you get all of that in the plugin, all different 20 IRs. There's a overdrive pedal, which is I think it's modeled after a Klon. I think is what we modeled it after, which is another very rare kind of like super sought after overdrive pedal.
Last I checked, they were up to $5,000, $5,000 you can pay for one.
Yeah, I think it's the one we modeled it after. I think it's a Klon Archer. I think is the pedal, but it sounds insane. It's like a magic button almost, kind of.
I think yours has a mix knob on it too.
Yes, all the effects and stuff, they have mix knobs on there.
That's super cool. I have like a physical overdrive, like Tube Screamer style-esque one that has a blend knob on it, and that's awesome because you can get that kind of like, you know, the Tube Screamer kind of a sound, like that mid-range boost bump, but also keep a lot of the low end that kind of like gets lost when you boost things, and that's really cool. I love it when when they do that. Of course, that's another rabbit hole.
Yes.
You're like, oh well, but what if I can?
Yeah.
I mean, blending IRs is the rabbit hole of all rabbit holes. That's getting in the weeds, but you can do things that would take so long to do them in real life.
Yep.
I mean, even just trying one different microphone times cab or speaker placement, like mic placement. I mean, if you take a basic SM57 and move it like a 1/4 inch in any direction, you're already in a completely new area code.
Yep.
And then it's
and we did all that. That's all in the plugin.
Times a million microphones.
Yeah, I helped with some of the IRs, not all of them, obviously, because you have to run sine sweeps like 6 different times in multiple different positions, like in order to do all of that. I'm sure. Have you taken IRs before?
I have.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and it wasn't even nearly as complex as what you're describing. I mean, we wound up with 3 different positions for what was it? Basically like 3 different positions for each microphone, and they're just like static waves. Like you've got the thing where you can like in the plugin move the little.
Yep. I think we had to do 6 for each speaker and microphone.
Yeah.
6 different sweeps, and they all have to be like, everyone's in there with like a flashlight and tape measure and like all of that stuff, and like so you can get it like everything placed exactly correctly, make sure everything's uniform, the exact same distance it needs to be, and it actually might be 12 per cabinet or per speaker and mic, I think, because you have to do straight on and then off axis, and then the coders, all of that, they have to turn it into a way that you can, blend, like, make it in software.
Change it.
Software make sure that it does it all correctly, like forward and back. And I guess they just have some way to like combine them all together, and it just, I guess, algorithmically just does it correctly, where moving the mic around and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a painstaking process and takes forever. Like I think Taylor even got like he's like, I need knee pads and a back brace. Because it's just down there on your hands, and he's just moving the stuff around all the time.
I literally have a robot that moves the mic around.
They were like, because this was like
crazy.
the first time we did it, and they were talking about that. I was like, we need to get one of those because this sucks.
Easily worth it if you're going to do stuff like that. This sort of highlights this very modern, I think, idea of artists having to be very tech savvy. I mean, you didn't necessarily like have to be there for the whole process. You could have just like come and been like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. But like the fact that you're thinking about that kind of thing and caring about all of that, along with, for example, the software that you're using, the VSTs and all of that, and having to know how to have two computers linked up, all this stuff, like this is a thing that back in the day, rock bands didn't care or think about this stuff until they were standing there in the studio, and then they let the nerds move the mics. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, and then they just had to kind of be satisfied with whatever. But now you have so much control over every little aspect of it.
It's part of the game.
Do you think of it as a distraction or being very beneficial, would you say?
Probably a little bit of both. Because, I mean, if you don't know how to do it, then you have to pay someone else to.
Right. So
that's the main thing is, like, I'd rather just know how to do it myself and just do it than have to worry about someone else taking the reins and doing it. I pretty much, the only main thing that I'd like to leave that up to now is mixing. Like, I know I'll never get to a point where I'm, like, as good as Taylor when it comes to mixing. So I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to, like, focus I'll always go to him because I love his input and the way his stuff sounds. So I'll just, like, put my focus and, like, priorities elsewhere because I know I'll always have that. And he's done is the same exact thing, but in that realm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to stay, like I know what I need to be doing, like, for this stuff, if that makes sense. And then I can always get my pre-pro sounding more than sick enough to become excited about it. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing too. Like same with like my new plugin. Like you just buy my plugin and then your guitar sounds good. Like you don't have to waste hours mixing to, like, get the idea down and have it, like, sound good enough to be stoked on it. Because, like, if things don't sound good, you're kind of like, meh. You know what I mean? Like if it
might be a good idea, but if it sounds like shit, you're not going to be inspired.
Yeah, you're not going to be inspired and you don't want to listen to it.
It's like playing on an out-of-tune guitar or something. Like, the core idea might be good, but...
Yeah. Or just, like, using just some drum sample library with no processing or any mixing on it. I'll just raw.
Super dry
and raw and, like, I don't know, just like a Line 6 pod or something like that.
I have
into a Scarlett, and then, like, everything just sounds thin, empty, and completely uninspired. Yeah. It's like, so if you just buy this plugin, you don't have to worry about guitar tone anymore. It just sounds good out the gate, especially the presets. Did you flip through all of those?
No.
You didn't flip through the presets?
I started tweaking immediately, which is a bad idea.
Yes.
Real quick, I want to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and take as many viewer questions as we can. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so guys, get your questions ready in like 3 or 4 minutes.
We've been on here for an hour already.
Oh, it's only been an hour?
I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's flown by. So guys, get your questions ready. We'll be right back, and we're just going to go through as many as we can.
Sick.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right, guys, give me just a little bit. All right, and we're back. So now we're gonna start taking your questions. So I'm gonna let Jason pick them out. Why don't you say the person's name and read the question out before you answer it, so they'll know that you're talking directly to them.
Okay. Where are some?
I think we had a super chat. Oh, so guys, now you can ask your questions. I think I said hold them until now.
Yeah.
So drop them. Maybe there was a super chat one. We got one from Truth and Shredding. You want to hit that one first?
Where is that one?
It's
what is it? I don't see it.
Okay, it's he says, how do you avoid repeating yourself? Asking for a friend with the initials YJM.
Oh. Sometimes it's not a bad thing, like having like an identity, but you don't want to just release the same song for every song on an album, obviously. Right. I don't know. Just don't repeat yourself.
Do something different.
Yeah, I don't really know.
From the other thing.
I don't know. Learn more songs, I guess, from other people.
Okay.
That always helps me. I mean, that's pretty much like what helped get me to where I am as a player today, was just learning as many Dream Theater songs and Children of Bodom songs and things like that, like from start to finish, not just like one part in particular, like one riff or a solo. I would literally force myself as like a challenge to see, like, can I learn this entire song, even if it's 20 minutes long, like A Change of Seasons.
I love A Change of Seasons.
Yeah, I even tried learning all of 6 Degrees at one point too. I got pretty far. I'm not gonna lie. I got pretty far in, but I think that's one of the ones where it just like, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it's like it's a 42-minute song. So I think like towards like the end of it, like the very last couple chunks of the whole entire piece is where I kind of started like brain farting when I would try practicing it from start to finish. But I definitely did attempt to learn all of 6 Degrees, and I probably got like 90% there.
I'll say this. Most of the total sickos that I know have done tons and tons and tons of transcriptions. They just have learned other people's stuff, but like a lot. Yep. And that's how you like take little bits and bobs from other people and
exactly
kind of mush them together in your own thing.
Exactly. Yep. Asking for the guy YJM, learned a bunch of his stuff too. Paul Gilbert, Jeff Loomis, Alan Holdsworth, Greg Howe, Andy McKee. Like, I literally learned songs from all of those guys. So it's like, if you're able to pull like a little bit from each one, that creates like your own identity in a way, where you're taking, I mean, that's literally what influence is. You can't take influence from something if you don't know anything about it. You can't just listen to it and just be like, all right, cool, I can do that now. When in reality, you can't, because you didn't learn it. You just heard it. I meet people every now and then where they're like, yeah, I don't learn anyone else's stuff so I can stay as original as possible. I'm like, that's very stupid.
I remember having that thought at like 15 or whatever.
When you don't know anything yet.
You don't know anything. There's nothing, or you can't have a really original, or you think that your thoughts are original, and then you start listening to music and you go like, oh God, everything that I thought was unique about me has already been done.
Exactly.
Oh, I can't.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's practically impossible at this point.
Yeah. All right. What else we got?
Anyone got a real burner?
Preferably songwriting related, because that's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You want to try this one from RM Shreds? How do you not let the perfectionism get in the way? That's a big one.
Oh. I don't know. I'm not thinking about it like that, if that helps. I guess in that regard, I mean, usually you can edit perfectionism into there. So if you're recording and you get like a wonky take or something like that, you just do it again and you probably nailed it in like another take, and then you just comp them together. But that's another thing, like being nerdy enough to know how to use DAWs and shit like that. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not thinking about it like that. If that helps answer that question about perfectionism, I'm definitely not thinking about it like that. That sounds like it's probably some like an outside perspective kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I mean, I'm obviously like when I'm writing, like there's always room for improvement and like everything, always, even still for me, like 100%. Like I said, like I'm only 30, so I still have a lot of life left. So there's lots of room for improvement and growth and expansion in that realm. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that. I don't know. I'm not thinking about perfectionism when I'm writing any of this stuff. That's for sure.
Great. You ever Lord Kermity? Lord Kermity.
Yeah.
He says, have you ever thought of writing guitarless or acoustic only songs?
Well, there's 2 interludes on the new album. Threnody is all orchestra. There's no guitar in that at all. And then the outro to the new version of Behold, the goodbye track, is also all just weird atonal shit. That was heavily inspired from Ben Wallfish's It soundtrack. Big time. It's very, it also has Luke whistling in it. I don't know.
That's Luke.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah,
funny.
that's Luke on there. I had to it was kind of hard to record. That was just recorded like in my studio out here in LA, but I had to just like give him the headphones, put a metronome on for him, and then leave the room because he would start laughing. Like there, I just had to be like, all right, I'm gonna go, so he can try and like keep a straight face while he's like whistling this Kill Bill type shit, like in there. It was pretty funny.
Was he like improvising, or did you have a specific?
No, I had a specific melody he had to do. He's insanely good at whistling, like could whistle like literally anything. Like it's kind of strange. So yeah, but actually there's another cool part about that where I guess this is more like a sound design kind of thing when it comes to writing. So I had, obviously you can get millions of different music box like sound libraries, but they don't have like that weird like creepy clunky like horror movie kind of vibe. Like they're too clean, if that makes sense. So what I did for the music box stuff on all of the new Behold things was I went my girlfriend and I, we went around to like different like antique stores here and like trying to find like music boxes that were like half broken and shit, if that makes sense. Like that kind of like correct character that I was looking for. And we ended up going to like, I think probably like 4 or 5 different stores, just wandering around like, hey, you got any fucked up music boxes? And I ended up finding one. I think it spent like $80 on it, like this half broken music box. It looks like an owl. It's like a half ashtray from like forever ago. And I just played it, just recorded it, and then I RX'd out all the notes. Isotope RX, if you don't know what that is, it's like a post-production like audio thing where it's like Photoshop for audio. So I essentially carved out all the note aspect, so it was just the weird clunky gears and like attack of it. And then I edited it and layered it in with the programmed music box. So
that's nuts.
So it has the melody I want now, but it also has like the weird old, like really clunky, creepy music box vibe to it.
That's going the mile.
Yeah.
For the vibe.
Had to try it. So like, I mean, I kept watching like dudes like Jason Graves, who's one of my favorite video game composers. He does like Dead Space and all of that kind of stuff. So he's like crazy over the top, and like he'll make his own like sample libraries and things like that. It was like sometimes I've even seen a video of him make one on his YouTube channel where it's just like, because it's all horror movie stuff, so you don't have to be that great at the instrument because it's supposed to sound like that anyway.
Yeah.
So he made this weird like really atonal like horror movie swell with like a cello, just recording it and layering it all over top, and that's all on his YouTube channel if you want to go check that. That's how I learned how to use Vienna Ensemble Pro with the slave machines and all of that kind of stuff, the second computer. But I just kept watching videos of him doing crazy shit like that. So I was like, I want to try that. Because, I mean, that's how you stay original, and, like, no one else is going to, like, get that exact music box sound now, so.
I had Rivers of Nile on, I think it was maybe my second guest, and Brody talks about how to create some sounds for the soundscape of the album that no one else could do, he would go out and record crazy sounds at places local to him, like spaces, like abandoned warehouses and all this stuff. Just go and like throw rocks around and like make crazy sounds that were 100% unique to where he lives.
Yep.
And sample libraries are amazing. I love them so much. I get as many as I can afford, or the people will send me.
Yep.
But no matter what, other people are going to be using those exact same sounds, and doesn't matter sometimes. But
dude, there's some heaviosity loops like that are in like, I mean, they sound incredible, which is why they're being used. But like, sometimes I'll literally watch like a movie or listen to an album, and I'll be like,
loop number 7, like destructed loop number 75.
I know exactly where that came from, but like not that no one's gonna know.
No one's gonna know or care.
Yeah,
well, normal people won't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Creating a unique soundscape and experience for the listener is very important, and going that extra distance makes it that much cooler, especially when you know the story.
Yeah. I'm glad I just brought it, because another songwriting thing that has helped me for stuff like that. Like sometimes, like there are some of the heaviosity loops, which also, if you guys are into programming stuff, if you haven't heard of heaviosity, you need to go check them out because they're one of the best out there. But some of the more tonal loops than like Vento and Forzo, their woodwind library and their horn library, I literally wrote riffs inspired by loops in there. And I would have thought of that if I didn't have that library.
Yeah.
So things like that.
Super inspiring. Having that kind of stuff at your disposal. All right. We got one from Siberian Joker, says, wants to know about your favorite guitar tunings, which I would like to expand to just what tunings we're using on the album, and did you
the same one as always?
Yeah.
Standard, essentially, but a step lower.
Yeah.
Just GD, GC, FAD on a 7-string.
But you've got I think it's the polyrhythmic pug, right? Sounds like way lower to me. Is that the 8-string one?
No, the only 8-string one is Pumbaa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that one's even less interesting tuning-wise. It's just completely standard, besides the low string is drop to E. So it's like a drop tuning, which is like what Tosin, the Animals Leaders guys, use.
Yeah.
But no, there's a couple things on, I just do a couple weird technique things to get the pitch lower. On that one, on the polyplug that you're talking, there actually is, I think there's one rhythm part where it's an 8-string just for like a second, just because of the Gent collab thing. I used the 8-string on there for a second, so I just kept that rhythm part in there. I'm playing a lead over top of when that's happening, so it doesn't matter, because that'll be on the computer when I'm playing it live. But no, because I have the floating bridge on all my guitars, so there's one part, the part that's right after that, I think, where I literally just pull on the low E string like as hard as I can to get it like a step and a half down the low string. So it's like dun 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 dun, and then I think I just use the whammy bar in the next part and just keep gradually bringing it down lower and lower and lower and lower and lower as I'm picking it. That was another idea I had in my head, where it does that kind of on the Sparrow too, which isn't out yet. There's one part it does this whammy bar raise up, and then it just goes into like one of the heaviest things I've ever written. And it's literally just the whammy bar as low as it can go, and I'm just picking.
So it's just
I just wanted to see if it would work. Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to see if it would work almost as a troll. Like, it was like, oh, will this work? And then I recorded it and did it. And there's like literally no. It's just like this sonic, like low-end, overwhelming thing with all of this crazy atonal shit happening over top.
Runking. Did you ever see that video?
No.
Like Runk. There was somebody made at this point it's probably like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. There's a video of this dude being like, all right, well, what's after gent? Runk. And it's that he just like tuned the strings until they're note, and just
that's literally what this part is I'm talking about in Sparrow. I mean, it's like literally when it happens, it hits you like a fucking truck. Like, it's brutal. But I just did it almost as a joke, just to see if it would work. And then I listened to it back, and I was like, holy crap. I was like, that's like one of the heaviest things I've ever heard. And I even put in there, or actually, if you guys have ever played Resident Evil 8, there's this like part where there's this giant like baby that's chasing you, trying to kill you. It's like this enormous like mutant baby thing. And it's laughing while it's doing it, like a warped, like demonic baby laugh. And I hadn't played that part yet in the game when I wrote this part, and I was like, what's really evil? So I went in there, I just found this royalty-free like baby laugh, and then just like warped it to shit, and it's over top, like layered in that part in the album. And then we were working on it and like mixing it later, like I think Taylor was watching his friend play that game, and he was like, "Dude."
What just happened?
Yeah, he was like, "Did you get that from the game?" I was like, "No, I haven't gotten that far in the game yet." Like, it's kind of, yeah, I don't know. Great minds think alike, I guess. I don't know.
There are certain things that are just always creepy, and just below the layer of the conscious human psyche.
Yep.
Is these things, like you hear a baby making a sound, it triggers something, and if it's all fucked up, then it becomes creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. I think I just sound toys the shit out of it. I just like all this distortion, like weird pitch shifting layered underneath, and it just sounds really evil.
All right, let's see what else we got. Somebody just realized that we're both in the same room. It's true. Like here, you can see my hand in the camera. It's really good CGI.
Yeah.
The stuff you can do these days with like these Instagram filters.
Yeah, Trey sent me all the lights. I had to set it all up.
It's very complicated. People are asking generally, we got a couple about guests on the album, basically. Guests, or I don't know if they're asking about you doing guest solos for other people or other people doing guest spots on your album. The last one had a few guest vocalists and stuff.
Yeah, there's only Tim on this one. And just mostly because like I hit up a couple other people to do guest features. I was going to try and do the same thing, go all out, but both of them ended up falling through just because of life and just other unforeseen elements. It just didn't end up working out. So after those two big names fell through, I was just like, I don't fucking care. Like, yeah. So that's pretty much it on that one. I mean, I'll definitely do it again. Like, I would love to have more people like, input and collab and all on there, but just for whatever reason on this one, just after those two people fell through, I was just like, I'm just going to keep working on this shit and not have to wait even longer for people to do those things. You know what I mean? Because that takes more time waiting for them to sim stuff back. So,
yeah, to extend an already lengthy process. I'm having a similar problem with my album. I had somebody agree to do a spot, and then I wrote the whole song, we tracked it. It's mixed. And then they dropped off the face of the earth. So now I either have to find somebody else to do it or just scrap it.
Yeah, that happened on the very first album with Omni. Omni was supposed to have a guest artist. I'm not going to say who, but it was like 8 months went by, and I still didn't have anything. So I was just like, I was, okay.
All right.
Going to write my own solo and move on.
Yeah.
And it ended up being one of the cooler ones, in my opinion. I really love how that solo turned out in Omni. So everything happens for a reason.
Sometimes when you you get to that, when you reach fuck it, I find amazing things happen sometimes.
Yep.
Especially if you kind of like let go, and you're just like, all right, well, I just need to put something down here. Let's just fucking get it done. And then all of a sudden it's the most amazing. You're so happy with it. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was I think like 7 or 8 months went by. I mean, they were communicating back and forth, be like, yeah, they're going to do it. Or the blah, 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 blah. And then like after like the 7 or 8 month part, he's like, you mentioned something about money, right? And I was just like, all right, I'm going to just write my own solo.
Jason Richardson guest solo on Jason Richardson album featuring Jason Richardson on lead guitar.
Sure. Technically, I guess.
Let's see. RM Shreds wants to know, what is one aspect of composing that you haven't had a chance to explore yet that you'd like to try in the future?
Doing it real.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for that one. Because there's a lot that goes into that, obviously. Like someone who knows what they're doing has to be able to score it all out and have it be like, readable and for the performer, whoever is playing the instrument.
Yeah, like
in
an
the
orchestrator.
Yeah, and have it literally just like be set properly. That's like its whole like world in its own. Even people who do like Hans Zimmer and Jason Graves, all of them, like someone else does all of that for them, puts it into a format where it can be performed by the orchestra. And like the dictionary composer book. Yeah.
Well, knowing shit like what a string player is actually gonna do if you put this word above a note, like you might
exactly.
You might think you know what it is, but like a dude who does this all day long will
Yeah.
know and they'll know, oh, you can't do that on that note. Like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Like they're
I've also seen some things where I would literally, because I'm not involved in that realm of things, where it's like, oh, well, like budget purposes, we can only have 2 contrabassoon players instead of 5. So it's like, how do we cater this one part to our restraints that we have? Like things like that. I was like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces with this stuff. So
any like composition technique ideas that you haven't tried yet, like the I don't know, like some of the things that you've described with soundscapes or trying doing something based on your dog licking the bowl, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Any ideas that you've had that you haven't been able to actually try out yet?
Not off the top of my head right away. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
The Music Addicts is asking, let's see, have you ever thought of making like a masterclass stream video type of thing where you write an entire song from start to finish and explain your entire process? Actually, yeah.
I mean, it's just a lot of work. It's just a lot of work with it would have to be like a paid thing. Like, you know what I mean? If I were to do something like that, like I wouldn't just like go on Twitch and do that. Just because it's so much effort. And to have it come across like properly as well, to where it's like digestible and you're actually like learning something. But I mean, I do have something that I got an offer for down the pipeline, but it's more guitar based stuff. It'll probably be like a really legit like guitar course instead of like an overall thing like that where I go into all of that. But actually, no, that might be a lie. I think I have 2 things that are set up ready to go in the future. One will be more catered to like the URM. I actually think that who it might be with. We've talked about it, but no date has been nailed down. Where it like goes over, like breaks down in detail. Like it'll be at my studio. I can go show everyone how to network the computers together, route everything properly between MIDI and audio back and forth, and it's breaking down literally all the aspects of that, like the whole orchestral side of things and all the synths and electronics and stuff, instead of just guitar. But then they have it's similar to the same people where they have like a whole. Actually, I think the podcast just went live today. The Riff Hard stuff with Ale and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just did. I actually think that just went live today. The 100th episode. It's got a bunch of us on there, a handful of people. Yeah, but they have their own like educational guitar stuff as well. And I think I'm gonna be doing something with them. That's like a full blown course.
Sweet. Well, I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that.
I hope so.
I'll definitely watch it. I have a URM membership, so nice. I'll be like, oh, hello. Siberian Joker wants to know if it was hard to decide the song order, and were there any leftover songs? Anything that you wrote and didn't?
No, definitely nothing left over. Well, actually, wait. I think I have something I never finished. There's like a couple ideas still sitting around that I need to finish, but I didn't get to on this album, which is fine because now I've had years break for them and I come back to them and now they're going to be even better because I've had time to step away from them and like think about it differently. But song order, that wasn't too difficult because I mean I always go in after the fact, like in the mastering session and things like that, and like make sure everything is like sitting perfectly together, and then you can add swells or like other weird effects or things like that. Like the outro of Sparrow when it goes into the orchestral interlude Threnody, that's another one where it's like that was done once everything was finished. Like, and we were in the mastering session and I went in and made that weird, like it kind of like it like devolves almost, I guess is a good way to put it. It like kind of like shrinks and gets emptier and more weird and bit crushed and just like evaporates, I guess is a good way to put it, into the next song, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. You know which part I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always funny hearing people describe with words these sounds that, like, you know, that's tough to do to make it make sense. But that, to me, that sounds accurate to me.
Yeah.
That's
it's
cool.
like, I kind of took the idea from like the Mick Gordon, like Doom soundtrack kind of thing, where it's got this like industrial kind of drum sound to it. And it's like big, fat, and punchy, but it just keeps like shrinking and like kind of like there's a swell up thing and then just like immediately gets like eaten and then just keeps like getting more bit crushed until it's just almost gone, and like reverb trails out into the beginning of the next interlude.
So it sounds like you're thinking a lot about sound design parallel to the music listening experience. It's like they're not just separate things that are completely unrelated and then just slapping stuff. You're thinking of how it's taking the listener on this journey along with the song, like it's accenting it or
yeah, pretty much everything is connected. I've only it sucks having to listen to it in Dropbox because like it kind of kills the flow of everything. But it'll make way more sense and be a lot more fun of a listen, even for myself, because like as soon as the song ends, I'm like, all right, good. Dropbox needs to fix that shit. It's so annoying. Like just
yeah, to have like a playlist flow.
Yeah, just like if something is in the same folder and you can recognize it's all WAV files, just let them play. Don't make me go back and then pick the next one.
I will say though, every single time Dropbox changes something, I get mad because then it gets more complicated, and I'm like, I just want Dropbox to do one goddamn thing and not get too complicated. But that I agree. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
So you've set it up so that the album is an experience to listen to from start to finish, and not just these songs one at a time. That. Yeah. I mean, you can listen to them on their own, but they're sort of meant to flow.
Yes,
together.
they all do. I'm pretty happy with the way the flow of this album came out with everything. It makes sense. Like everything definitely connects like exactly as it should, in my opinion.
Are there any factors that you look at when you're putting them into a certain order? Do you think like, oh, this one starts in this key and ends in this key, that they're gonna line up nicely? Or?
Maybe not necessarily key, but more of like vibe or mood, I think is a better way to put that. Like, because you don't want like two songs that sound really similar or similar in any kind of fashion, like being just like back to back. So I feel like the way that it flows is definitely like things are balanced well throughout the album when it comes to like how heavy something is or melodic or something in that nature. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe a little bit of contrast between them, so it doesn't just feel like one continuous song.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Cool. Let's see.
I feel like my phone one's on a bit of a delay.
Yeah, maybe it does. Sometimes the chat's in different places on different. Okay.
Anybody else got a burner?
There's like some that are just like about all right, here's a good one. Jordan Rush wants to know if there's a VST library or patch that you find yourself using for most of your songs or ideas, like a go-to one that winds up in a lot of stuff.
That's one thing I try to avoid is using the same thing all the time. I guess it kind of depends on what it is. I mean, I do have. Well, that's the other thing about having so many libraries is like they all do their own thing. Even if it's like strings, for example, like each string library is all played by different players, recorded in a different room, different conductor. Like everything about it is different. It might sound the same to like just someone who doesn't know what they're listening for, but like some of those libraries are literally like they're way bitier, for example, on some of the faster, more staccato or like spiccato runs where things like that, or even like a pre-recorded like run that can tempo sync or something to that effect. So it just kind of depends on like the vibe. Like maybe, for example, like there's a company called like Musical Sampling where they're not even that very well known. You have to use like Contact 5 and go through the folder hierarchy to open it because it's not a wrapped library, like things like that. Where like their stuff in particular like is just way bitier on some of the faster type shit, like spiccato and staccato type things. But then I might use like the cinesamples, ensembles, and sustains for like chord movement and things like that. It all completely depends, and you don't ever learn about that stuff until you're like really hands on with all of these different libraries. Another good tip for that type is turning off all the built-in effects and using your own, because things just get really washy and overwhelmed if you don't turn all that stuff up. You have way more control because you can put all of these things in the same space. Essentially is what that does. I think I told Steven from Chelsea Gren that, and he he went and redid like everything for their new stuff, and he was like, holy shit, that opened up the mix like so much, because it's not just all these reverbs from all these different spaces fighting each other. If you turn everything off that's built in and then just send everything that you want to it's the same reverb, you're putting all of that in the same space. So it makes everything like way more cohesive, and it's not just this big wash of jarbled reverb that's all fighting each other or phasing possibly, like, you know what I mean?
It's a little tough sometimes, because that I've found, at least, because the close mics sound fucking terrible sometimes. The room, like this farther away mics of the sound of the room sound a bit more natural.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're adding reverb on top of that like the East-West stuff comes, like it's all just like on, like you're saying, and then you still want the room sound and not just the sound of this string, because that's really dry and awful. But if you're combining libraries with different kinds of reverb, it can get really washy. And I think they want it to sound, they want you to turn it on and have it just sound good and cool.
Yeah.
But especially on top of like a dense metal mix and stuff like that, it's a great big washy mush.
Yeah, having way more control over that type of stuff is definitely way better, like a lot better.
Yeah. Do you have one that you maybe picked up lately that you think is cool, something new?
Reverb?
No, a sample library.
Well, I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I just got Heaviosity just sent me their two newest ones, the Aspire library and the brand new Damage drum kit that just came out. The couple of demos I heard, the Damage drum kit reminds me of like Slipknot drum tones in a way. So it's like no, that's not a good way to put it. But like even like the old Slipknot recordings, like they don't sound good, but they do. You know what I mean? It's like they have so much character. Like that's a really good way to put it. Like you hear it and you're like, yep, that's Slipknot. And then they've just found a way to like maintain that, but make it better as they progress through their career. It's like it has that same vibe, but it just sounds better. So that's like what I guess I could equate like the couple demos I heard of the Damage drum kit. It's like it sounds really good, but it has that like kind of like almost like a Slipknot kind of like drum sound feel to it.
I immediately think of like a really kind of springy snare sound, like with a lot of
like tight
ring.
Kind of. No, I wouldn't say that. I would say more like the modern recording.
That's funny. We said the opposite. It's really ringy, and you're like, it's really tight with no ring. But okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, not like the keg stuff that they do, like the actual like drum kit.
Right.
Yeah, like the actual drums. But the Aspire one is I think it's all percussive, like xylophone type kind of stuff, like in that realm. But obviously it's Heaviosity, so they did a bunch of crazy, weird like things and textures to it that you can do. I'm pretty sure it's similar to the Send one, which is the bizarre piano library they have, where you can layer in textures where like they recorded like twine, like them taking like twine and going on the wound strings on the piano like this. So you can like layer in like all of that and like different levels and things and have them like morph like back like move around. Yeah. So that's essentially like a percussive version. Ascend is like a percussive version of that.
I love that because that's a thing that you can't really do with a physical real piano, a typical one. I mean, you can do it, but you can't blend them, morph them like back and forth.
Effort.
And it'd be way too much. It'd be prohibitive effort.
Yes.
Basically. And you can so that's one area in which VSTs will blow the real thing out of the water because you just can't be that creative with it.
Yep.
Without way more effort than you would normally like.
It's kind of like that brings me back to like my new Mixwave plugin with all the IRs that we took and the different cabinets and stuff like that. Like instead of getting down there with the hands and knees with knee pads on, a flashlight, and a tape measure, you can just buy this plugin and then you have all of that.
Yeah. And then all you have to do is click, move.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And it literally sounds pretty much exactly the same as it would if you were to actually just go in there and go through all that painstaking effort to do it yourself.
Right.
It's like throw your pride out the window. Like who fucking cares? Like just expedite your workflow and streamline it and get the end result that you're trying to get to, more efficiently. I guess is a good way to put it. Like efficiency is key. Like because you don't want the idea to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you get into the weeds and the original intent gets lost very easily.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Working quickly can be very important sometimes. Or I think it's important all the time, but like I said, sometimes the struggle helps with something that you'll think of something that you didn't think of, wouldn't have thought of otherwise, but not when it comes to guitar tones.
Yeah.
I think like just get it down, make it sound fucking awesome.
I know that's some people's thing, and that's fine and all, but it's like this is more in like a songwriting aspect for sure.
Yeah.
It's like just make sure you're working efficiently enough to where you can get the idea down, and it doesn't matter. Like pride is irrelevant for the end result of this song, essentially. I'm trying to think of another, like like when I was saying about the slave machine stuff, or like my computer crashing all the time, or because it's underpowered for my ideas. Like that's why I had to figure out the second machine, because I was like, I have this shit in my head and I can't get it down because I'm limited by what my computer is capable of, which is annoying as fuck.
Yep.
So I was just like, I have to do this. I have to figure this out if I want to be able to get what's in my head into the computer.
So I actually have one that I think all right. Do you have one really important piece of advice for someone sort of starting out writing songs? Maybe they've written a little bit, but they don't know where to go next. What's the most important philosophical idea or tip that you've got that will put them in the right direction?
Try to probably not. Well, not being closed-minded is huge. Don't type novels on people's YouTube videos of shit that they worked really hard on because you don't like it and you're an incel maybe and you don't like you just hate the world. That's other things you need to figure out. But I think I usually tell people answering how to write is fucking impossible. Literally every single time someone asks me that, this is what happens. I stammer and I'm just like, I don't know what to say. But the thing that helped me the most is just learning other people's stuff. Like when I was younger, just literally just being so stoked on playing guitar and getting better at it and it becoming more fun, the more I could learn and the more I could play. So, because again, you want stuff to take influence from. And the thing that reminded me of that recently was because Luke and I are planning a CD release show like a little bit after the album drops in late July, and it kind of I had to learn Tim's part from Upside Down, Tim Henson's part, because I hadn't tried learning it from start to finish yet. And if we're going to play that song live, I obviously need to know how to play that part whenever he most of the time he's not going to be there. Right. So I have to be able to play that part. So I learned it towards the end of the All That Remains tour. I was just like, I was on antibiotics from my second sinus infection that tour. So I was just like, which I actually still don't think it's completely gone. And I was just bored. And I had my new guitars. So I was just like, fuck it. I'm just going to get this out of the way. I need to learn it at some point. And I was like, that was actually really sick because I didn't write it. And it was like, it's an outside perspective that you can, take influence from it and put into your own ideas and playing. So I was like, why did I stop doing that? Because I don't really do it at all anymore. I don't do it anywhere near as much as I should. I think maybe one of the other things before that I had learned was like a Tim Miller part. Which do you know who he is? Yeah, yeah, he's a freak. He's like, I think he's a Berkeley professor. And he's like a stupid good fusion guy. And
wait, did I see him at NAMM this weekend?
Possibly.
I think maybe I met him.
Possibly.
No, JK. It was a different Tim. Different Tim.
There's a lot of Tims.
Tim Pierce. Never mind. Sorry,
yeah.
my bad.
He's good too.
Tim Miller is fucking crazy. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I had learned one of his things just because I was like, that looks really, really, really hard, and there's a tab for it, so I'm just gonna go for it. And it took me like a few days to get down for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I just need to start doing stuff like that more again.
Have you ever done anything like that for something that's not guitar? Have you ever done like an orchestration transcription or something like that?
I know I need to start doing some stuff like that. Like I've thought about that, like buying like a conductor book for like Star Wars or something like that, just going through and trying to like just remake all of it in MIDI, because that is really good practice. I've learned how to play a bunch of random piano things. Like that's honestly, I learned how to play the every 27 years, I think is the name of it, from Ben Wallfish, the It soundtrack. Mm-hmm. That's like the main piano theme in the new movies. Just because like the chord movement in it is just like insane. Like it changes keys like almost every measure, but if you don't know what you're listening for, that wouldn't register. It just sounds really like beautifully
really smooth,
beautifully creepy, I guess is a good way to put it. And it reminded me of melodic minor, which is very useful. And I hadn't been using that in a lot of stuff for a while. So there's definitely like quite a few stabs at things transitioning and intertwining in between keys, like using melodic minor to get there, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used it. It's on Sparrow whenever that one drops, or when that one drops with the album. The Byronius. I wrote a good chunk of that right after I learned that it part on piano. So there's definitely some serious it vibes on that one. But the weird melodic minor changing between keys and chords and all of that kind of shit in there.
Sweet.
Yes.
That's even just that is huge. The fact that you learned something that would influence your more than one track on your album so strongly, you know, like
I already knew about melodic minor, I just forgotten about it.
Right.
If that makes sense. So it reminded me that like, oh yeah, that is a really creative, useful thing to like transition in between chords and stuff like that.
I thought of this question a minute ago, and then we kind of switched gears. I want to go back a little bit to the Tim part, because I was curious about this when I saw the music video. When you sent the song to him to do it, did you leave because his part is so like chordy, it's like a chord melody, a lot of it, and that kind of thing. Did you leave a big open space, or did you already have the chords and stuff in place? Like how much direction did you give him, or anything like that?
So essentially what happened with that is I wanted him to just do his own thing, like not like just write over top of something that I had already done. So I sent him the song. It was like up into the classical part, and the classical part just ended. Then it was like 10 seconds of nothing.
Okay.
And then the last chorus and all that stuff kicked in after.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yeah, just like take that spot, just like, cut it, and then just write a part. Just like do your thing, just like make a part right there. And then I'll figure out a way to like connect it and make it cohesive with the rest of the song. So he did that. He was like, yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to just like play over that classical part or something. I was like, no, just literally just do your thing. Just like make something that makes sense with this song right there. So that's how that ended up happening. And then he obviously sent stems for everything. And there was this one key, like synth part that he put in there that I thought was super sick. And in order to make it not be like a surprise or just like random in the song, I took that one synth layer that he had in there and I kind of like sprinkled it in the song throughout from start to finish. So it's like it's not like distinct and pops out, but it's like more like a subconscious kind of like foreshadowing type thing. So that one synth line is just kind of like it happens like maybe like buried in there a little bit, like 2 or 3 times before his actual part kicks in the song. And then Luke put his drums in there. I added in like more of my own programming and stuff like that. And this weird, like there's this like harmonic kind of like tapping part thing that is accenting like a piano in there that I play. And I just put that in over top of his part. So in the music video and stuff like that, I'm not just standing there, just not doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great to hear that that's how you're thinking of it, though, more than anything else. You gave him a lot of freedom, and then you took what he did and you integrated it so that it was cohesive. It was it wasn't just now we stop, now it's Tim Henson time, then we go back to the song like it never happened.
Yeah.
It's
Yep. No, I knew it needed something like that. Like I think the part I'm talking about, it's like right when his part like kicks in, there's a like, and it's doing this weird like synth vocal warped thing that he always does. It's kind of like makes it like he's turned that into like a signature thing for him. And I literally just took that one little line and just put it a little bit in the intro. There's like one transition thing I put it in there, and then it's just literally sprinkled throughout until his part happens in the song. So it's not just like, oh, there's Tim.
You like retconned isn't the right word. Whatever the reverse of like retcon, like you went backwards in time to foreshadow the part that he wrote at a certain part in the song. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting and unique way to go about something like that. But so in that way, it was a collab, even though he kind of like you said, he did his own thing, but you still, wow, that's crazy. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing it quite like that before.
Well, it had to be done.
It had to be tried, and I mean, obviously it worked out great.
Yeah.
But like, if you don't try shit like that, it's gonna nobody will.
Yeah, exactly.
I always encourage people to go down rabbit holes if they get inspired to do that kind of shit, because like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, nobody's gonna die. It's a fucking song. Right?
Yeah,
it's just music.
Yeah.
Notes never hurt anybody.
Nope.
Except for the brown note. All right. I don't know if there's anything in particular that you think that you might be worth adding to this, or any of these questions that you're seeing that are hitting you.
What is this one? Rini Hoppanen. That sounds Finnish.
I was gonna say that sounds pretty Finnish. It's probably Hoppanen.
Yeah. Or yeah, one of those countries out there where it's all black metal and epic. Let's see, any night, any specific moments of the day when inspiration hits. It's never when you want it to be. It's always the most inconvenient shit of all time. And then you're up until 7 a.m, and then your sleep schedule's completely ruined forever. That's usually when it happens.
And then you wake up in the morning and the thing that you thought was a masterpiece turns out to be shit.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, yes, that does happen.
All right.
But usually it always, inspiration hits at the absolute worst time, and then you just gotta roll with it, because you can't just like be like, oh, this song's really good, this is going really well, but it's my bedtime. So
I would say that being a creative person is more of a sickness than anything else, because like normal people will do that. They'll be like, all right, this is pretty cool. It's my bedtime now.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah.
I would be tortured all night long if I didn't get it down.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd just be anxiety.
Yep.
So we
just
have
be
to
thinking about it like nonstop. So I'll usually go until I can't see the screen anymore, and I'm losing my attention to detail. That's usually my thing for me. If I'm losing my attention to detail, and that's when I'm like, all right, I should probably stop, because then when I wake up tomorrow and I check this out again, I'm just going to delete it. So I try to recognize when that's happening. It's usually when the screen starts getting blurry, and I literally I'm just like overlooking things that I know for a fact I wouldn't do if I was, awake.
Yeah. Yeah. You see yourself like doing something and you're like, why am I doing that?
Exactly.
That's not, oh no. Oh, it's time.
Yep. Or if I'm just listening to it over and over again for like an hour and not actually making more progress. But that's also a good thing too. That's also because it's like, if it sounds that sick already and you're that pumped on it where you can just listen to it on repeat constantly, that's a good sign. Someone else can probably do that.
Right.
Yep. Same with like the chills thing, how we were saying earlier. Like if it's my own shit's doing that for me, there's probably gonna be at least one person out there that it'll do that for as well.
And how else are you gonna discover that? Like, you have to assume that other people are going to react to it at least to some extent the same way that you will. And it's not like, we're not a TV studio that can hire a test audience or a focus group to check every.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think of this riff? Nah, bro, nothing. Doing nothing for me. Like, well, who's?
Yeah.
You have to be your own test audience to an extent. So
yeah, I also know sometimes you just can't listen to people like that because they're usually wrong. Like one example is like so All That Remains, the song "What If I Was Nothing." literally like paid their mortgages, like because the song is so massive. It's almost at like 9-figure views on YouTube. It's like a ballad.
Yeah.
It's like literally a radio ballad, but it's like so left field from what the band has done before. But like even at like meet and greets and stuff like that, like people are like, oh, that's the song that we danced to like at our wedding and things like that. And like I can't tell you how many times I've heard that now, even just being in the band a few years.
Yeah.
But literally like all their friends like or like from other bands and things like that were like, oh, that song's gonna flop, why are you doing that? And then now I have a gold plaque for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even write it or had anything to do with it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, that's still a weird concept in itself for me, but it's like literally multiple people told them that wasn't going to work. And now it's literally at almost 100 million views on YouTube.
Yeah.
So,
fuck.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut.
Yeah. So it's, and a lot of, it's good that we can't afford a test audience or listen to, and like, got nobody really to listen to tell you that shit.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, that I tell people not to listen to like their friends or their mom or whatever, because like, I mean, unless you have a really good reason to trust their opinion in like a kind of like a professional sense, you know, like at the very least treat it for what it is, which is an unreliable source of of feedback for your, you know, I mean, your mom's always going to love whatever it is that you do, probably. Like, I mean, or at the very least, she cares about your feelings.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I feel you.
And your friends will be like, I don't know, man, like, it's pretty cool, I guess. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So,
I do like to get mixed
trust
feedback. Sometimes I do like showing like some of my girlfriend's friends who like don't even know what metal is.
Yeah.
Like some stuff and just like seeing their initial reaction or like what they think of it, stuff like that. Someone because that's also another thing I try to think in my head when I'm writing this stuff is like someone who's never heard anything like this ever. Like, are they going to be off put by it, or maybe it'll help, or will it rope them into like this whole genre of like instrumental stuff and things like that, like on their first listen. You know what I mean? Like I do always try to consciously think of that as well. That's why I try not to do too many parts that would be just like, you know, only like a niche, like free jazz, like school elitist, like someone would want to listen to. Like it's fun every now and then, but I don't want to do that as a whole. Even though I know people are on the internet always like, oh, he only writes music for other guitar players. It's like, yes, but no at the same time. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel like that of all the guitar players out there, that's least applicable to you. I mean, not, I don't know. I guess I think of Steve Vai or Joe Satriani as having very broad appeal, but like, I actually think that your music has a lot of appeal outside of, especially because, like you said, you're starting with things that are not the guitar, and you're thinking very compositionally. And even though you play out fucking rageous melting shit, we actually haven't even talked about any of that this whole time. 2 hours, we have not talked about shredding, playing fast, technique, any of that stuff. You're composing this stuff, like you're writing it, thinking about the song, the composition as a whole, and having compositional value. And obviously guitar players care a lot about what you're doing because you're doing something that's just worlds and worlds beyond impossible seeming to somebody like me. But I think it's
pretty hard.
I think it's pretty hard. Understatement of the century. But it's I think maybe the speed of it makes it a little harder, little less accessible for the average person.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
But but I actually I think it could have a lot more crossover appeal than most people think. Guitar players are I don't have to tell you, like, one of the worst fucking audiences to have because they're so picky.
They can do it better.
Yeah. They can all do it better.
Yeah, exactly.
If they can't do something that you can do, then they can play it with more feeling.
Exactly. Yep. That's my favorite.
Yeah, and I never feel like you're just showing off. I think that's usually the go-to criticism for people who play fast, but I think it's just fucking exciting to hear fast stuff, regardless of whether somebody played it or programmed it.
Yeah.
And I don't really give a shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that, like, you're only showing off. Like, really? I've seen people only show off on their instruments, and it's usually very non-musical, but I don't think yours has that.
I think it's also very strange to me how someone who, like, or someone who can say some shit like that, but then they reference something else. It's like that person is doing the same exact thing that, like, almost I'm doing, but just on a different instrument. Like, they're shredding on a piano. Or it's like, yeah, they're playing fast as fuck. And, like, it's crazy arpeggios all over the place. It's just on a different instrument. Or, like, if you listen to, like, the theme song for, like, the new Law and Order Organized Crime one, like, it's literally, like, orchestra shred on a TV intro. But it's like, if I were to play that on a guitar, then there'd be some dick who's like, oh, play David Gilmour. Like
say more with one note.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and I like some Pink Floyd songs. David Gilmour is an incredible fucking guitar player, but, like, that's just, like, the most cliche thing that you always see on the internet now. There's some boomer in the comment section on, like, my videos. It's like, one note says more than all of these, and I'm just like, dude, like, I don't know. It's like, I don't think we're ever gonna move past that mentality, unfortunately.
Yeah, neither do
toxic, fucking pointless guitar culture.
Yeah,
it's kind of, like, unmotivating, honestly. Like, it sucks. It's like, why can't we all just be friends?
I think it sucks because I want to read the good comments of people who are into it, and it's, you can't filter out boomer complaining. Like, where's that?
Yeah,
when's YouTube gonna?
Yeah, there needs to be a button for that.
You could add the word feeling to your filter.
Yeah, or feel. It's also, too, like, when people say that, it's like, did you not hear Ishimura? Like, the second song of the album, the video I came out with, like, it's like some of the most lyrical, like, guitar lines I feel like I've ever written. Like, yeah. I've even heard people, like, when I was hanging out with Tim for the music video stuff and showing him new stuff, like, literally, like, 10 minutes later, we were walking down in the car or something, I heard him, like, humming it. Like, not even intentionally, just because it got, like, stuck in his head.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, it's an actual melody. It's not just shred the entire time. That's another thing I hate, too, when I see people comment that stuff. It's just like, have you actually listened to anything?
They started typing 13 seconds in.
Yeah, exactly.
To what they heard.
Boy. Oh, well. It is what it is.
It's a weird place for music to be in, when you can be creating something that's this incredible and still get so much criticism. You know, if this were to happen, if you'd have put this out before the time of the internet, you'd be it would be very, very, very different. I think it would be a much different reception. I think.
Or a couple of these other ones.
Yeah.
I don't have time to read them.
Well, yeah, I think
there's bass on every album, on every song, start to finish.
Somebody asked if there was bass.
Ever think to get a bass player to play bass on your albums or shows, Lord Kermity?
Oh, I think he probably means like a somebody else to do it other than
no.
Yeah.
I wrote the songs. I know how to play them. It's an efficiency thing.
Yeah, it's probably a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I already know how to play them. I don't have to show it to anyone. I don't have to worry about them learning it. I know exactly how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
I'm thinking too, not just mimicking the guitar parts constantly the entire time as well. Like, because you do need to do that for a good chunk of the stuff, but every now and then there is a moment where it can shine and it needs to be doing something slightly differently. But yeah, live, no, probably not for a while. This project is technically still in its infancy. This is only the second album. So there's like, you add more people on there, like going on tour. That's another bunk you need. That's another that person also has to live and pay their bills. They need to eat food. Like, that's just a lot of money. So until there's more money involved in the touring aspect of this project, no, it's just going to be Luke and I, because we're jaded and spoiled with All That Remains and Falling Reverse and like all that other stuff. So we do have like kind of like standards for ourselves to where, and we've also all been touring over a decade now. So it's like, I can either just stay at home and make more money, or I can go out and, you know, not want to kill myself because of how hard tour can be.
Yeah.
Like getting bronchitis and 2 sinus infections and things like that, which is what just happened to me on that All That Remains tour.
Jesus. And if there's just 2 of you, you can tour in a minivan, basically, like, and still have enough room to for both of you to sleep.
Well, that's the other thing is like you get to the show, and then so it's like if you're in a minivan, if I'm in a minivan, I'm gonna want to kill myself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because once you get there, you're not gonna sleep. You're not gonna have a driver, so you're not gonna sleep at all, which is also not safe. And then you're gonna have to set all your shit up, which is another thing that I don't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
I'd rather everything is so difficult, especially with the solo stuff. That's like I need to be focused on warming up and practicing, not going up there and troubleshooting why a cable isn't working.
Yep.
Immediately before playing.
Yeah.
So there's like all that puts you in a terrible headspace. It's gonna affect the show. And then, but if you have a guitar tech or something like that, and if something goes slightly wrong, like RF's not behaving for your wireless unit or your in-ears or something like that, like they can be in the headspace to troubleshoot that, keep an eye on it while you're playing, and you're just focused on putting on the best show possible and playing as well as you can. Things like that.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get to that point, obviously, but after having that for years now, like I can't
go back.
I can't abandon that, like ever. So that's why it's just Luke and I, like we need to have like our usual crew that we're always used to having. So that way everything's as comfortable and runs as smoothly as it possibly can. And we're just focused on putting on the best show and playing as well as we can.
Yeah. And it's more important to have like a driver and a merch guy and a engineer who can set your shit up and roadies and stuff than having a separate bass player when it's like nobody's there to see the bass player.
Yeah, it's just another factor included into all of that. And until there's way more money involved with the live touring aspect of this project, I can't ever start introducing other people into that. Because I mean, it's like, yeah, it would be cool to tour with a 70-piece orchestra, blah, 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 and all of that kind of shit. But that's, I don't even want to think about the logistics of that. Usually when people do that, they outsource, they usually tour with a conductor and then outsource the orchestra every single day. Yeah,
that's what Evanescence did when I saw them on the
Lindsey Sterling tour.
Yeah, they brought in the a local orchestra every time.
Yeah, it was the same conductor, and then sound check was essentially practice for that orchestra. But all those people are so good, that's what they do for a living. So you just put sheet music in front of them, and they play it perfectly. Yeah. So instead of touring with like 300 fucking people or whatever it is, like crews, you literally just have like someone who's at the helm, and then you just have the people that locally show up. So logistically, touring-wise, it's a much cheaper and more efficient.
Yeah.
But then you look at, like, I think Hans Zimmer, though, when he tours, I mean, they're playing like sold-out arenas of thousands and thousands and thousands of people every single day. So that money is there to do that with logistically. So you can tour with like 100 people or whatever it is, set up and tear down all of that input and monitoring and miking and production, video walls, blah, 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 every single day. It's like I don't even want to, like, I can't even well, I mean, I can fathom, but it's like so much. Like,
it's so much that people don't see until or don't think about it until it goes wrong or something, like or like something is like they see a big band do it and then they're like, oh, why can't you do it? It's
like I know
because it's
like
a fucking lot.
I'm kind of curious to see that input list now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Probably a couple hundred, like at least like 200-300 different things like coming in, and that has to then that starts getting into like Dante networks and like all of that kind of stuff for like monitoring and making sure everything in like Dante's and matrices, like everything going to where it's supposed to. It's like
or you could just run it off your fucking laptop and on tracks, and the two of you can play and have a good time.
Exactly. Which is what we do. Just one stereo track of all that stuff that's already mixed, and then it just has to be catered slightly to the room, and then I save a lot of money.
Yep. I think we've hit a point where it's probably good to call it a day. We got to way more questions than we usually. Actually, this is only the second time I've taken viewer questions, so hopefully we got enough that the people are satisfied. And we covered so much, and
that was a lot. It's already been 2 hours. That was fast.
Yeah, it always goes fast. So the album is coming out July 15th.
Yes, July 15th. It's pre-orderable right now.
I forgot to put a link, but whatever. You
JasonRichardsonMerch.com.
or you could just go straight to JasonRichardsonMerch.com.
Yep.
And
there's links to it everywhere on all of my stuff. It's very hard
to
not to find.
You just pre-ordered it. You didn't even realize you did it by accident. You slipped.
Yeah, I tried to make it practically impossible to miss. Which is still, even at NAMM, I was asking people. So it was like they were like, coming up asking for photos and stuff. You pre-order yet? He's like, oh, I didn't know it was up for pre-order. I was like, what do I need to do? Like, I guess I can go knock out Mark Zuckerberg so I can actually people can actually see things that you post.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like,
that's a pretty good publicity stunt.
I should go find him and beat his ass. You're like, dude, why are you making everyone's lives miserable? You're already a multi-billionaire. You're like the second one of the top 3 richest dudes on the planet. Like,
yeah,
you could just let me post and then have everyone who follows me see it.
Yeah, just give us the organic reach of the people who wanted it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's small. I could probably beat his ass.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's a robot. You wouldn't be hitting flesh. Underneath the flesh is titanium.
I don't know.
Smoked ribs and brisket with friends.
It's a really brittle metal. Gold. That's malleable.
Gold.
Yeah.
You hit the first punch and he does this.
Yeah, I mean he doesn't have he doesn't have Wolverine type metal in there.
Right. Adamantium.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's not that. I like how you know that immediately.
I was all proud, like, oh yeah, it's called adamantium. Oh no, I gave it away. I gave so much away about myself. Well, this is very exciting. The album is awesome. I personally guarantee it. I listened to the whole thing a couple times. It's great. Obviously, you worked very, very hard on it. The music videos are awesome. I imagine you're very excited for the world to hear the whole thing.
It's gonna be strange.
It's gonna be strange.
No, just having it done and being able to move on to the next thing and not just panicking, freaking out, trying to make sure everything is going according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, this next month is about to be still pretty hectic for me because of the next music video and tab books and other products and making sure everything is just staying according to timeline and planned.
Mm-hmm.
Because some things are hard because of supply chain, blah, 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 etc.
Mm-hmm.
Making everyone's lives harder.
In case it wasn't already hard enough coming out of the but on top of that, they can buy your new guitars that are out through Ernie Ball Music, man. That look incredible, and your new Mixwave plugin is available right now. I got served ads for it. I literally, Facebook was like, buy this.
Good.
So keep it up. It's working.
Yes. Hell yeah. But yeah, for real though, Mixwave is gonna take over the industry in my opinion. Because it's a brand new company. My amp is only the second one that they've released. And other than that, they have 4 drum libraries out. It's Thomas Pridgeon, Luke Holland, Gojira, and Tony Royster. So that's all and I know for a fact that there's tons of other shit in the pipeline that they're working on that is literally just gonna once everything starts coming out more consistently, that's gonna be one of the main companies in my opinion.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
Because obviously the stuff that I've heard is great. So
yeah, like I said, it's still brand new. Company's still, I don't even think a product has been out a year yet.
Oh shit.
In total.
Yeah.
So just give it a little bit of time.
Let's give it a little bit of time.
Yeah, just give it a little bit. It's gonna get there. I know that for a fact. Yep.
Here's hoping, dude.
Oh, I don't have to cross my fingers. Yeah, I know it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know it's it's a big ask, 2 hours of your day to come out and yak about this stuff.
Nah, you're good.
It's a little niche, but I love hearing about this stuff so much. I started this podcast for me because I wanted to hear this the way that people do things, and I don't think there's really a podcast out there that's like this. Y'all at home, this is the 18th episode. All of them except for this one, and maybe just the last one, are also available as audio podcasts. If you want to hear them, I record them live every Monday right here on the stream with new artists every week. And
Who's next?
That is a great question. Let me check the calendar.
Also,
I'm not sure if I have it lined up. But
Also, Lurd Cormedy, you can pre-order the new picks. JasonRichardsonMerch.com.
JasonRichardsonMerch.com.
Mm-hmm.
Next week is Interloper, Miles, Dimitri Baker, and company. Super fucking cool band. So, oh yeah, and if you want to hear them as audio podcasts, they're on every place that podcasts exist: Apple Music, Google Play, Spotify, the works. Or you can just head over to howsongsaremade.podcast.com. And
Nice.
And this was super fun, and I'm looking forward to all of that stuff. So hopefully, I will catch you on the Flippy Floppy. Thank you guys all for watching. JasonRichardsonMerch.com.
Yes.
And
pre-order a new album.
And we'll see you soon. See you next week.
And it's a lot of fun merch too. Best shit, coolest looking shit I've had actually ever. Best
Sweet.
merch I've ever had. I'm a fan of it.
I'll put it on my body.
Okay.
All right, dude. Bye, y'all. See ya.